Hello, Sabrina.
Hi!
So where do you find your little bit of joy?
Sometimes the simpler something is, the more I enjoy it. Shave the end, salt, pepper in a pan.
It's always really refreshing. It's always really vibrant and energetic.
It's simply inexplicable. You're like my first date in ages.
Hi everyone, and welcome to my online series, Simple Pleasures. Here I'll be joined by a special guest each week as we dive into all life's simple pleasures and what a simple pleasure can mean to them. This week I'm joined by Sabrina Ghayour, award-winning international food writer and chef, whose cookbooks have made a regular appearance on the Sunday Times bestseller list. Her recipes have me salivating with her signature combination of spices and refreshing no-nonsense approach to cooking. Hello, Sabrina.
Hi!
Hey, I am so happy to have you here. We have bumped into each other a few times over the years at random foodie events, and it's always very brief.
Very brief. Well, thank you so much for having me. So nice to see you again, a little bit less hurried and like we're not flying all over the place.
I know. I'm missing that. Usually it's at an event where you can have a glass of champagne or a cocktail.
or a bottle.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think that was at the last one.
Oh my God, yeah, evidently maybe. like memory blank, yes.
Those were the days. It's all a fond memory now, isn't it?
It is. It's given way to teetotal boringness, but I'm very happy with that. And it's a lovely day, so I can't complain.
And you're looking fabulous. That green on you looks amazing.
Well, thank you very much. I know that you're a red lip loving diva and you always look so beautiful in your dresses. So I was like, oh my God, I've got to go Rachel. You're like my first date in ages.
Oh, I feel
so I have to look my best for you.
Oh my goodness. So honoured that you've made an effort for me.
Essentially, we just scare everyone online. The reality is very much PJs, no makeup and glasses. It's not quite the same.
Yeah, I know that. I do that on the running off to nursery. It's like quick gym clothes, brush my hair, brush my teeth, and then it's all good. If I get SPF on, I'm okay. I'm
seriously, you brush your hair. That's huge. Brushing your hair. I just think that's one of these lockdown absolute bonuses. If you manage to cram that in a day, it's a good day.
You made it. So I can't believe that you've got your 5th cookbook coming out this August the 20th, I believe. Is that correct?
Right. Yes, it is inching towards it at lightning speed. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It's kind of like a light at the end of the lockdown tunnel.
And we share a similar title because it's called Simply.
Yeah. All the best people.
Hey. What was the idea behind it? Where do you get the inspiration? What were you thinking when you were writing this cookbook?
So it's always really interesting because before I became an author, I really had no clue what it took to create a pitch for a cookbook, and the way a cookbook came to me was the publishers sort of approached me, so I was absolutely clueless about it. But then obviously after your first book, they want ideas of what you want to put together, and I was like, so I find it a real struggle every time they want you to come up with ideas. I'm not so great at that because I'm really kind of like the kind of person that just knocks things together at home and then people eat it and go, that was really good, and I'm like, really? Because I was going to do it with this, but I ran out of that, so I used something else. And it was really good. And I think, and then I kind of keep a mental note of it, take a picture, or if I go to a restaurant and eat something nice, I think, well, that was, let's say, beef and rice. Well, I'll do it with lamb and pasta, for example. And I think about keeping some of the flavors, but not ripping the dish off, and how can I make it mine and improve it or make it a little bit easier to make at home. And that's really my process. So sometimes that process doesn't always fit into conceptualizing a book up front, but this one is quite simple. Simply, it was quite simple really, because I was speaking to my publishers and we had a little kind of informal chat, and I was just like, I don't know what to call it, and I just it's like, it's Middle Eastern food, but it's not Middle Eastern food. It's just, like Simply Sabrina. It's just Simply Sabrina food. And they were like, we like that. That's a title. And I was like, oh, okay. Cool. So it's not, even though it's called Simply, it's not, in my case, it's not simplifying the process, because actually all my recipes have always been really simple. For the most part, sort of like small ingredients list, don't have this, chuck this in, don't like that, use something else. And I think sort of fifth book in, people know what I'm about. So if you're somebody who has at least 2 of my books, you kind of have a confidence with my recipes, like, it's Sabrina's recipe, don't have pistachios, I'll just chuck in peanuts or whatever. So it's simply inexplicable food. Like, don't know where it comes from, because I've got like let's say I've got a recipe with fish sauce and harissa chicken wings. So it's like, the Vietnamese, Thai, salty fish sauce that I love, thrown with North African harissa. So it's not actually Middle Eastern at all, but it feels to a lot of people like it would be, but most importantly, it tastes good. So it's simply Sabrina, because it's not from here nor there, really.
Simply good.
Yeah, I hope so. Don't want to be cooking. I really hope so.
Those chicken wings sound amazing. I mean, I am very much a bit of a magpie when it comes to cultures, because like I grew up with like multicultural kind of background, living in different countries, and I just like, well, I like that flavor and I like that one. Why not pop it all together?
Yeah, I think it makes for the best food. And actually, if anything, I'm sure you'll agree, because if you cook like that, then we're quite similar. It keeps your content really unique, because it's great to, constantly sort of knock up recipes that are done, like quiche Lorraine recipes. I love a quiche Lorraine recipe, but like, I don't feel like I need a new book with another quiche Lorraine recipe, unless there's some life-saving addition or some new ingredient that really takes it to the next level. I want crazy stuff to inspire me. That's personally what I'm like. But also I want things pared down to their ultimate simplicity. And I like drawing inspiration, and also similarly paying homage to where you've borrowed something or been inspired by something. And fish sauce, it's very Vietnamese, very Thai, and I'm mad if I could drink it. Literally, I can drink it. I love it.
Wow.
No, I know, it's really bad. But it's that kind of like background. I know people say it, that background umami, it's so delicious. And I don't know if it's a Vietnamese dish, but it's definitely Thai, have fish sauce wings, and they just literally it's so delicious. And I was like, sticky sweet, salt, sour, kind of, they've got a good thing going on in Southeast Asia, and they know flavor. And I operate a lot of that similar flavors, the hot, the sour, the sweet, the salt. I like my food like that. So kind of no brainer, really. And that's really the kind of food that I do, no brainers.
Sounds amazing. So when you were writing that book, that whole process, was there something in that process where you could find, really, that's a simple pleasure for me? Like, I don't know, for me, I always find the actual writing really, really difficult. So when I'm able to tick off a recipe, like, that's written, that's like a simple pleasure for me, because I tick something off.
Yeah, I do. I guess I'm like you. Maybe we're like a lot more people than we think. I find it an absolute hell of sorts. Don't get me wrong. I know we both love the writing of the recipes and the creation, and the fact that you want to love something so that when you share it, you hope similarly other people would love it. That's by the by. But the process is crazy. And also, I just think I'm one of these people, I don't send my recipes to be tested off by other people, because unless you're from my culture, with certainly a lot of my dishes, you have no clue what this should taste like. And also, I'm wacky like that with the throwing the harissa and the fish sauce together. So it's not like I'm asking somebody to sort of test a Victoria sponge recipe where they know what it should taste like. They have no clue what it should taste like. So that does kind of leave you to be quite insular, and after a while food just blurs into one, and I just have to rely on having people over to just go, does this taste good? Are you sure it tastes good? Is everything good with this? Because they're like, yeah, are you mad? I'm like, I can't tell anymore. Like, I can't tell anymore. Might have made it, you know, so many times in my cookery classes, but for that final book test of the, you know, quantities and perfection, I do kind of go a little bit crazy. And it's not the worst thing in the world, but I remember I tested and wrote this book recipe, this book, as I was on book tour for my last book. And so I was like, and I swore I'd never do that again, because, you know, it killed me, absolutely killed me. And I was just so stressed because I was touring the country, and I had written quite a lot of these recipes, but perfection and trying to squeeze in testing them whilst I was at home, it was just absolutely mental. But thankfully, I keep things so simple, and I don't go outside the realm of what I think I can handle. And I'm not looking to knock people's confidence. I want people to have, you know, complete confidence in my recipes, knowing that even if they overcooked it for a bit or undercooked it for a bit or didn't have 3 things, it would still kind of be fine. So there's a lot of leeway with that style of, don't panic. And areas in recipes where I think people need to really adhere, I write it in the recipe, like, you cannot deviate, you have to do this. And that's, you know, that kind of makes me think that doesn't matter what I do, it will be okay for people, as long as I've got the kind of core skeletal recipe sussed. But it's a stressful time.
Not easy. So where do you find your little bit of joy in that stressful period? What is like that little ray of, or that little nugget, or that carrot which you have dangling in front of you every day when you're in that process?
I'm a list ticker.
Okay.
Check, done. Check, done. Check, done. That's, I probably think that's one of my biggest satisfying elements. It's very hard for me because I'm also aware of the burden of responsibility, because when you write a book, people are going to pay good money for that book, and you have a duty to make sure everything performs as you have stipulated to them. So really the only satisfaction is when things are done for me.
Okay.
Or unexpectedly when some modification turns out to make something easier or even better than at first. That's always nice, because, and maybe people don't sort of know about that later down the line, but I think, that was going to be so much harder, and then I made it even easier. Yeah.
Fantastic. I always think simple pleasures is something which can be anytime, anywhere. It's not something you have to go out or make a special trip to. Like at the moment, I've really embraced just being able to go out. Like that's,
yeah.
I feel very privileged that I can go walk to the shops and go to the bakery or whatever. I have this freedom, and like in the morning, you know, being outside. So that even for me, that's a small, simple pleasure. Is there anything at the moment which you've really kind of really embraced and really enjoyed?
What I would say is about 2 years ago, I bought a house in the north of England, and it's very different to London life. You know, I grew up, I've lived in London for 41 years, and I grew up there, and then 2 years ago decided to move to North Yorkshire, to this tiny village that, you know, has 30 houses and is very different. And, you know, my simple pleasure is how lucky I am, especially this year, to have a garden. I never had a window box before in my life, and now I've got a garden that's got, you know, 3 pear trees and 3 apple trees and plums and damsons and red currants and white currants and black currants and kale and all these things that are way beyond. I've got no green fingers. There's somebody who very thankfully is a friend of ours that we kind of like pay as a gardener to come and, because she grew up in the country, so she's used to that. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to kill everything in this garden. But it has been such a joy to watch the seasons change in the garden. Every week something new pops up and, you know, makes way for something new to come. And sanity wise, it's really much needed. to be able to just, my kitchen overlooks the garden. You know, when I'm pottering, my kitchen is bigger, not much bigger, but it's bigger here than it is in the skinny corridor in London. And it's got windows over the garden. It's peaceful. And, you know, it's nice to have a barbecue for when the weather's really warm. Those things, I'm a simple pleasures person, you know. Pajamas, a mug of tea and a hot water bottle in the winter is just, there's nothing better. You can give me champagne, caviar, diamonds, not interested. I would pick the PJ situation every single day. So having a garden and also having beautiful fields and sheep and cows, it's quite idyllic, really. My house isn't sort of anything special, but the garden is really, really lovely. So that has really kept me sane, kept my loved ones sane. And that's how lucky I am to have that. So
you won't be appearing on Gardener's World, Sabrina's Gardener's World?
I will be, and it will be, this lady has a beautiful garden in North Yorkshire, which she's absolutely murdered. Avoid killing all the beautiful things that you have in the garden, because it's just literally like I'm just, you know, everything needs to be watered every day. I know that sounds really stupid, but I'm like, what? Why? You know, and you turn around and you blink. We have one of these ride-on mowers that our previous house owners had very kindly left for us because it's a whopper of a garden, and literally they're all constantly mowing the lawn, and you turn around and blink after 2 days of sunshine and the grass is just, it's like a monster. It needs, you know, like any animal or anything, it's a living thing and it needs constant tending, but it looks beautiful. And I'm so proud because I've had nothing to do with its beauty whatsoever. Like, it's just, you know, it's gorgeous. It really is. And I can't wait until like late summer and autumn when the fruit comes in. That's a really happy cooking. Yay!
Yeah, but like just being able to go out in the garden and like to pick an apple from the tree and then bite into it, and that sound from that crunch, like
those apples are spectacular too. They're kind of really quite sharply acidic, but they're not quite kind of like the Granny Smith cooking apples. Like you could still eat them. Really nice with a piece of cheese side, but really lovely in cakes. But we had a tiny patch of wild garlic leaves, and I absolutely love that. And I was furious because I couldn't go and find any foraging. And you know, you don't want to start randomly foraging in case it's people's lands and whatnot. And then my friend was like, "Oh, you've got wild garlic in the middle of your garden." I was like, "Have you? What?" And I was like my own personal stash. So we did a bit of like wild garlic pestos, lots of nettle pestos. And the next thing to come in, the red currants, because it's summer season, have come in. The kale, the Cavolo Nero is in right now. But I'm waiting for the damson tree because I want to make a Scotch bonnet and damson spice ketchup because I'm not really a damson jam. Like, I want to make a spicy fruity ketchup. So
I would like that recipe, please. Or is it in one of your books?
When I perfect it, it's yours. I'll keep a little jar for you if I haven't. I'm not the world's best preserver and jam maker. So let's see.
It sounds amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
So you mentioned you grew up in London, which I spent some of my childhood, outside Croydon, Bromley, so suburbs. I was wondering if there are any kind of simple pleasures from your childhood which you have a real fondness for still for today.
Edibles,
or I don't know, things you did, anything really.
So my childhood, I went to school in West London and I lived in West London, and I remember when I was a kid, there were 3 people on TV, which, you know, changed my life. 3 people on TV cooking. I just like to say, not just 3 people on TV. It wasn't the 1940s. I know. So it was Delia Smith, and it was Madda Jaffrey. And then Madda Jaffrey introduced this friend of hers, Ken Hom, that came on telly. And I think it's hard to be 5 or 6 and connect with Delia Smith. But if you're sort of like a foreign kid and you look at Madda Jaffrey and Ken Hom, even though the food is different, the lots of little dishes, you're like, oh, this kind of feels a bit familiar. And I was like, watching them, and particularly taken with Ken Hom because I had somehow just become absolutely addicted to Cantonese food, which is the broad Chinese food that, of course, we have in many nations, not just England. Now we're a lot more sophisticated, but back then, essentially, it's Cantonese. And had a Chinese supermarket near my house, unheard of in the 80s, but I know it was huge. So, bear in mind, this is when supermarkets didn't sell things like avocado, didn't sell ginger, didn't sell coriander. You'd be lucky if you could have parsley. This is just because that was demand. You didn't have what people didn't want. So I'd walk past this supermarket every day, twice, once in the morning, once in the evening, coming back from school. And I'd see ginger and chilies and, plantain and all this, even though that's not Chinese, but like all this kind of weird and wonderful stuff. And we'd go in and the freezers would have wonton wrappers and prawns and, tofu. And I was like, wow. So I would see Ken make wonton soup. I was like 6. And I would look at whatever he was doing. And, when you don't have sort of like, there's no TV channels, multiple channels, there's only 3, there was no internet, there was no games, there was none of this stuff. So like, if you found something fun to do in the kitchen, you would do anything to be behaved and stay in there with, get your parents' permission to stay in there. So I was very diligent. Kids were probably a lot more diligent then because there were no distractions and they were just desperate to have that fun. So I started making wonton soup, probably not great at first, but, quite good at making it now. But that was my joy to spend time cooking in the kitchen. And I've still got lots of dorky pictures of myself cooking with my mum. And fast food wasn't a thing. Supermarkets started doing jarred sauces and wok cookery became huge, and ready-made rice and stuff like that. So I grew up in that era of exotic experimentation, and suddenly places like department stores had introducing food halls was a very new thing. And I rode that wave, and it was just huge for opening up new flavors and ingredients and putting me out there to be so like absorbed by all of this stuff. So those are my memories. Everything I do is like really food related.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Wow.
So fast forward to today. You're in the kitchen most days because if you're recipe writing and developing, is there still like a simple pleasure you can find with food, a joy, something? I don't know, when I think is when I buy a fresh loaf of bread and you cut the first slice and it's that smell and like slathering it with butter and you bite in and you get your teeth marks on it. So
I'm like, yes. I'll try and think of my own one.
Okay.
Yes, that is high up on the list. And I know where you live, there's amazing bread. And we're also very lucky that where we live, there's an amazing bakery that I'm mad about their sourdough bread. I love sourdough bread. Do you know what? It can just be really sort of simple things like just really good coffee in the morning, and or just taking vegetables, because vegetables are one of those things that if you're a meat eater, we still, even though I've written a vegetarian book, we still struggle to make vegetables like wow, just the natural vegetable itself, not the vegetable mixed in with 5,000 things. Once in a blue moon, when you just take, like when asparagus season came in, this is really good, simple pleasure. Asparagus season came in, there's an asparagus farm a mile down the road, not even that. Got the asparagus, got a lot of asparagus, and just, shave the end, salt, pepper in a pan with butter till it kind of almost butter fries. And that simple food, like peeled cucumbers with salt, pepper, lime juice. Sometimes the simpler something is, the more I enjoy it. The more I'm like, God, why don't I have this more often? And I ask myself, like, when did things get so? When did our taste for a necessity for complicating this? Why? This is so good by itself. Why do I need to add 20 things to it? So those kind of things strike me in the kitchen as like, yes. But lately, cookies are doing that for me. Home-baked cookies. Oof.
Oh, yes.
Too many times.
Yeah. I've been having that a bit too. I've had to stop making it and stashing dough balls in my freezer because I just bake them.
Yeah,
But
and that's the problem. They go, you can put it in the freezer. I'm like, I know.
exactly. And then
A batch in the freezer, a batch in the fridge. That's the problem. Yes, I've had to peel that back, and now it's obviously, you know, warmer weather now, which is nice because I'm loving the salads. I love a salad. We love a salad in this family, but not like lettuce salad. You know, got to have lots of character, bags of flavour. And it's good because you're actually doing something, you're hydrating your body, you're having something delicious and lighter, so that when you eat whatever you want for dinner or whatnot, it doesn't feel like it was such a chore. It balances out the cookies for sure. There's a lot of cookies.
Well, look, Sabrina, I've absolutely loved chatting with you. It's always really refreshing. It's always really vibrant and energetic. And for those of you watching at home, make sure to check out Sabrina's social channels and her new cookbook, Simply, which is out on the 20th of August. You can actually already pre-order online. I'll leave all the details in the description below. And don't forget, I have a new TV show, Rachel Khoo's Simple Pleasures, airing on the Food Network UK, Thursday, the 2nd of July at 9 p.m. All right, thank you so much. Take care, everyone. Bye.